Hey guys, what's going on? Mike the Caveman Q here again for Palo Palm Island, MikeTheCaveman.com, and trying to get rid of that glare, that nice shiny halo I got going on there. Got another edition of Monday Nights with Mike, live stream Q&A. You know the deal, ask me anything, health related, and let's keep it rolling. I'm gonna, as usual, open up the app now on my phone. It's probably gonna make some loud noises. If you've been around, you know the deal. Hey Annie, how you doing? So yeah, Murray, how you guys doing? You know what to do. Put the comments down in the box, and let's get going. Oh, hey. Oh, there's the loud noise. Hey, Alex, how you doing? So again, like I said, you know the deal. Ask the questions. Hi again, Annie. You always have the great questions. What do you got for me this week? What do you got? So yeah, hey, Murray. Yeah, let's keep it rolling. I guess, Amy, how you doing? Well, I guess before, while you guys are putting your questions down, we'll talk about last week. If you were watching yesterday's episode, the behind the scenes, hitting the streets with Mike the Caveman. Last week I did a podcast with my good friends over at the Six Borough Podcast, D-Rock and Yarborough and what the hell? Skanga. But his Instagram name is Bulk Hogan, so I always forget. So, yeah, Skanga. And, yeah, I did a podcast over with them. Eric Ott is over there, but he wasn't on the other night. But, yeah, good stuff. 2 hours. Should be coming out this Thursday. On yesterday's Hitting the Streets, there is a little bit about a little behind the scenes. I know a couple people have seen that already. They were laughing. Murray, you were one of them. Debbie, if she pops on at some point. I know Debbie saw that and you guys were enjoying that. Can't wait to see the full video, so hopefully that comes out by Thursday. That's what D-Rock was telling me. Alright, so difference between calcium glycinate and calcium citrate. And the difference is what it is chelated to. In terms of absorbability, I like citrate better. Calcium citrate is, if you were to make your own calcium supplement at home, taking eggshells and crushing them up. I'm pretty sure I told you about this, but if you were to take that and crush them up and add some kind of acid, particularly lemon juice, which is obviously predominantly citric acid, what you're going to get as a result is calcium citrate. So an ancestral way to make calcium supplement is by taking those shells, crush them up, add that lemon juice, and you get calcium citrate. In terms of bioavailability, it's one of the best. I like citrate a lot. So, calcium citrate, way to go. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing, brother? Yeah, so calcium citrate, talked about that. Talked a little bit about the Six Borough Podcast. Make sure to check out for that. What other questions we got going? While I'm waiting for those to pop on in, I'm going to go and look back and see what other little things have popped up lately. Actually, I had a good question from my friend Steph earlier, and she had a question regarding what should we do on adrenals and carb intake with adrenals. And I've talked about that a little bit in the past, but essentially looking at adrenal health, you're probably going to want to get a little bit more carb intake in than, say, what I normally recommend. The reason being is that a ketogenic to low-carb diet, while beneficial, while it can be good, the problem is that it is still a stress on the body. Normally, it acts as a hormetic stressor, which is a beneficial stress. The problem is you go too low-carb for too long with too many other stresses, and we have a problem. We can cause dysfunction to our HPA axis, to our adrenals, and no good. So, on that end, you're going to want to get a little bit more carbohydrate in. Okay. Annie asks, drinking lemon water in the AM, isn't that too acidic? Is it okay for people with acid reflux? Annie, man, I am going to have to post some links on that, because weirdly enough, acid reflux is actually the opposite. Acid reflux is generally a result of insufficient stomach acid. The reason being is that more often than not in acid reflux, what we are looking at is not enough acid in the stomach. The stomach is supposed to be a barrier between the outside world and your body. So, it normally kills bacteria on the way in. That's part of the reason why most probiotics are ineffective, is that the stomach acid kills them on the way in. Well, what happens is that insufficient stomach acid in the gut or rather in the stomach in this case specifically, but stomach's kind of the gut, specifically the stomach, the insufficient stomach acid, what ends up happening is bacteria are able to creep up into the small intestine. Now, in the small intestine, what happens is those bacteria, they go and they burp up methane, and methane then goes and feeds the next set in the stomach. And those, or rather, excuse me, they burp up hydrogen. Hydrogen feeds the methane feeders. And from there, that's why you get the hydrogen breath test to test for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, to see whether you're popping up hydrogen or methane. Either one of those on the breath test will be hydrogen, but there's other tests you test for methane, will tell that if you have that bacterial overgrowth. It's not a perfect test, but it is a very good indicator. In that case, what's happening is when that gas is passed back from those bacteria in your small intestine, it puts pressure on your stomach, results in a leaky valve, and what little acid is left in the stomach can actually get kicked back into your esophagus. So, in which case, something like lemon juice and or another acid like apple cider vinegar is actually an excellent idea for acid reflux, because you're trying to actually replace that acid and kill the bacteria that have overgrown in your stomach, which in turn will help to get rid of the ones that are in your small intestine. A little bit of a downstream effect. Now, with that being said, we've talked about it before as well, is that the one case, if you start to notice that you get a kickback in terms of acidic kickback on with acid reflux, if you already have, if you're taking the apple cider vinegar or you're taking the lemon juice, what that's generally indicating is that you have a histamine issue. And that's because you have histamine producers. You're adding more histamine, generally in the form of the apple cider vinegar. Fermented foods produce that. And when you have that, what ends up happening is the excess histamine is not getting broken down, and that kicks the acid back. You're feeding those histamine-producing bacteria in your small intestine, in which case it's actually a bad idea. So, most cases, as apple cider vinegar and or lemon juice, good. It actually causes you to buffer it later on, so you produce a little bit more sodium bicarbonate, a little bit more bicarbonate, carbon dioxide as well, to help to calm that down. But long-term, or rather, but in terms of acidity, eating that acidic food is not going to cause acid reflux. Sodium. How do you determine how much on a low-ish carb diet? Well, it's a good question. Generally, more than you would think. For most people, we're probably looking in the neighborhood of 3,000, maybe 4,000 milligrams, so 3 to 4 grams a day as a safe bet. You can look into Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. He has talked about going up as high as 10 grams a day. Now, he's in the Florida sun, eating a really high ketogenic diet, and working out really intensely, but you definitely need a lot more sodium than you would think on a lowish carb diet, particularly towards ketogenic. So, salting your food, pink salt to all your food, pink salt in your water, other electrolytes, making sure potassium, any magnesium, calcium, chlorides, getting all of those in as well. So, lots of electrolytes on a low-carb diet. Sodium in particular is very important as well, because sodium and glucose in the form of glycogen store that water. You need to store it somehow, otherwise you're just going to be flushing it out completely. So, that's there. Alright, what else we got? Sandro, what's up, brother? How you doing? Alright, what kind of questions we got going on? In the meantime, let's see, what else can we talk about? Yeah, so again, yesterday's, if you didn't catch yesterday's video, the behind the scenes, we also got a bunch of cool training videos, and got to see a little bit of strength and performance, what we got going on over there. Had some good questions. We were talking about what is the best food to possibly eat. And if you're on right now, if you want to put that down, what you think the best food is that humans could possibly eat. And Murray, you can put your answer down, but you're not fair because you already know the answer. We've had this conversation a bunch of times. But the best food for humans to possibly eat, if you want to put down what you think it is. All right, I'll answer your question there, and you can put those in the comments anyway. What are your thoughts on SAM-E? I think it's an excellent idea for a lot of people. It can help with methylation. It can help with scavenging free radicals. It is relatively beneficial supplement for a lot of people. In terms of immediate thoughts, yep, you got it. You nailed it right on the head. Liver is the best food for humans to eat. You got it. In terms of SAMe, yeah, it can be particularly beneficial for a lot of people. Is it something that I generally recommend? No, not always. Just because most people can get away with, just general detox. Excuse me. And best food, Annie puts down blueberries, flax oil, and mushrooms. All excellent ideas. None of them are the best. Murray got it. But liver actually is the best. And in terms of other up there, yeah, blueberries pretty high, full of antioxidants, full of vitamins and minerals, particularly on the vitamin end. Mushrooms have potential medicinal properties. They are, again, full of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. Excellent ideas. Flax oil, not as much. Flax, yes. Flax oil, not quite as much. Is it a source of plant-based omega-3s? Absolutely. Does that convert well in the body to EPA and DHA? Not really. So, if you absolutely had to consume a vegan diet, is flax oil beneficial? Yeah, probably. If you're taking in if you're eating any fish or supplementing with fish oil, then you probably don't need flax oil. If you want to add flax to your meals, go right ahead. Generally going to be a good idea. But the oil in and of itself, So, just small note that I just thought about, Murray, regarding SAMe. There is some potential for insomnia. So, with that being said, that has been a potential side effect. So, maybe not for you. While it could have some benefits in terms of cleaning out the liver, detox, and methylation, it could potentially result in some insomnia. So probably not the best bet. Do I eat bread? I do not. So there's two ways of looking at this. There's the basic ancestral template that I like to use, the framework, which is the baseline, which is to say that no, cavemen didn't eat grains, so we shouldn't eat grains. That's the super simple, basic way of framing it. The scientific way, the better way of framing it is one that Matt Lalonde put forth, and that was at Ancestral Health Symposium 2011. It was Organic Chemist Perspective on Ancestral Health. And essentially, the term would be that humans, as a species, have had insufficient time and evolutionary pressure to adapt fully to seed consumption. So that's the fancy scientific way of putting it. And the short answer is that we probably didn't eat grains for long enough that we don't have full adaptation yet. So whether you want to view it from the layman term or the scientific term, the fact of the matter is that those plants, grains in particular, legumes to a lesser extent, but even so, depending on what conditions you have going on, even leafy greens, even nightshades, different types of plants. Plants don't have claws. They can't run fast. They don't have sharp teeth to bite. Not teeth, that's an older part of the body. They don't have sharp teeth to bite you with. So, how do they defend themselves? They use chemicals. Whether those chemicals are goitrogenic, so they destroy your thyroid, whether they are estrogenic, so they destroy your reproductive hormones, whether they are stimulant, so they can destroy your adrenals, whether they are outright poisonous, they cause you to, there's a toxic level, so they cause sepsis in the body, whether they are neurotoxic. The fact of the matter is that plants use chemicals to destroy your body. In the case of grains, they have certain things that can bind minerals, so phytic acid, oxalic acid. What they can do is they can bind minerals, they can lock them up so they are less bioavailable, so you can get deficiencies in nutrients. They also have things that can disrupt your gastrointestinal tract, so prolamines, such as gluten is the most commonly known one, zyme, avenine. Essentially what they can do is they can punch holes into your gastrointestinal tract. Other things, There's debate on whether lectins can do it, but there's saponins, tannins, FODMAPs. Essentially, what they're doing is they're destroying the gastrointestinal tract, which in turn can allow other things, proteins, bacteria, to translocate, go through into your bloodstream, and those are at the heart of immune dysregulation, whether it be autoimmune conditions or allergies and things of that nature. So your body sees that, recognizes that protein, whether it be the gluten, looks at it and says, that doesn't belong here. And then in turn starts to attack your own tissue because it looked like the gluten. Because we have proteins in our system that are part of our body that make up organs that look similar to that. And in the process can lead to those autoimmune things. So yeah, that's partly where we see an issue there. Excuse me. Yeah, so interesting perspective. Thank you. And yeah, Christine, how you doing? I saw you joined. Al, how you doing, buddy? Okay, thoughts on Corella? I think we had this question last week from Sandro, who popped on earlier, and I can never pronounce that word, chlorella. What I always want to say is chlorella. I always want to say it's bacteria. I made the Oregon Trail joke last week. But yeah, chlorella versus Corellia, or whatever. Now I can't think what the hell the thing is. But yes, chlorella can be beneficial. Yes, it is rich in antioxidants. Yeah, last week's live stream we were talking about it, but it is essentially, yeah, it has a benefit. It has B vitamins in it. It has, vitamins, minerals. It can be beneficial. In terms of increasing energy long term, is it going to be the end all be all? Nah. Is it going to be problematic? No, not at all. It could have some potential mild detoxing effects. Yeah, I like it. What? I made an Oregon Trail joke, and it was really stupid and whatever, but I can't remember what it is now. But I mispronounce chlorella that way. But cholera, that's it. I always call chlorella cholera, and completely different things. Yeah, that's enough for my insane, just rambling train of thought right now. Just stream of consciousness. All right, let's get back to some other questions before we go completely off the rails. But so far, those of you who joined us late, we've talked a little bit about sodium and low-carb diets, a little bit about chlorella now, obviously, talked a little bit about bread, no, Sam E. Talked about 6 Per Hour Podcast and best foods. And keto bread, no, Murray, let me come back to that. No, I've told this already. No. I know I let you get away with it sometimes because we're trying to convince you to get some kind of carbs in, but no. More often than not, don't be getting the keto bread. Don't be getting any bread. Just eat food. You don't need the bread because so the problem I have with bread, even the recreations, and yes, I have recipes for recreations for my English muffins and whatnot. But yeah, I know. The problem with that is that you're recreating your standard American diet. So yes, you have kids, you can get away with it occasionally. Yes, I understand that. But the problem comes down to, and I slapped the iPad case and made the thing shift. The problem with the bread and recreations, the treats, is that you're not breaking the habits. So you're still in the mindset of that, oh, well, I can eat a cupcake, or I can eat the bread, or I can eat this because it's a paleo treat. And yes, treats can be okay from time to time, but the key is from time to time. So that's the problem. What you need to do, make it occasionally. Don't make it the go-to. Butter and eggs. Yes, butter and eggs are delicious. And yes, I know it's... but it's still putting you in the mindset of having a sandwich or having that. So, yes, I have a pancake recipe. Yes, I have all of those treat recipes. I've done them. I'm okay with it occasionally, but more often than not, don't do it. Just don't. Don't do it. But that's really going back to her point of, do I eat bread? Like, no. All right. Any other questions? it's been a quiet group tonight, but the questions that have come out have been excellent. Again, best food and debate on bread that I'm having with Murray right now. Whoa. Anytime there's bacon, it's not a treat. So you better be sharing that recipe. So yes, chocolate covered bacon. And yes, you did, and you did make those chocolate roasted coconut butter cup recipe type things that were incredible that you made from eating Evolve stuff. And so yes, please share that. I guess don't be stymieing that on me. Don't be hiding that on me. Chlorella. We talked about chlorella and increasing energy can be beneficial. Yes. Benefits of blueberries and mushrooms. How much sodium to take in on a lowish carb diet? A lot. The sodium will replace the sugar. But I usually like to stay on a little bit longer just because generally people pop on late. But Mariah, if you want to ask some questions, I see there's 4 people on right now. Annie, I'm assuming you're probably still one of them. I don't know who else is on. But yeah, if you want to pop some questions on, Alright, cool. Here we go. Awesome, Mariah. Saving the day. What's the deal with IV vitamin therapy? Seems like a hot topic. I like it a lot, actually. The biggest issue we see a lot of times with absorption of vitamins is that actually getting through. So, getting through the digestive tract is a major problem a lot of times. So, doing the IV at mega doses actually bypasses the gastrointestinal tract. So, let's talk IV vitamin C. That's like one of the most common ones. Why is that beneficial? Well, let's say we're dealing with cancer, and there's a lot of debate over whether vitamin C can fight cancer, can combat it, and the mechanisms are there. Vitamin C, particularly at higher doses, can have 2 effects. One, it actually acts as a pro-oxidant, and as weird as that sounds, that is a good thing if it is targeting the cancer cells, because cancer cells, they go and create a hypoxic environment, meaning low oxygen environment. The other end of that is that vitamin C can actually be produced from glucose in a lot of animals. We as humans have lost the enzymes to produce that. We cannot convert glucose to vitamin C, which is what part of what makes vitamin C essential in humans. Now, conversely, cancer cells can take up that vitamin C, and theoretically, it would starve out the cancer cell because it would take in the vitamin C thinking, oh, we're going to create sugar from this, and then there's a byproduct of sugar, and it takes it in place. And then once inside, it kind of acts like a Trojan horse and has pro-oxidant activity and goes and basically explodes it from the inside out. The reason why you can't take vitamin C internally at high enough dosages to fight cancer is that your gastrointestinal tract says screw you, and you end up getting the runs. So that's why a high dose vitamin C can combat constipation in many people, because it has that effect. It increases motility, and you just don't absorb it. You just excrete it right back out the back door. So by going through IV method on vitamin C particularly, you get to bypass the gastrointestinal tract and get right into the system, and it can theoretically have some beneficial effect. So if we're dealing with people with chronic inflammation, like say Lyme, mold, like yours truly, and things like that, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, yeah, IV vitamins could be really beneficial. And in terms of that, the whole idea is bypass the system, get directly to where it needs to go. And at this point, Annie, I appreciate that you're still listening. If you have any other questions, please throw them on in. Like I said, I like to keep these ones to half an hour. If you or Murray, who I think are the only 2 left right now on at this second, don't have any more questions, I'll probably cut it. Awesome. I love you guys coming in with the good questions. Do I agree with eating with the seasons? 150%. Yes. There's 2 reasons why. One, in terms of just ancestral perspective, yeah, that's what we did historically. If you didn't have, a supermarket, you just didn't get food that was from a completely different place. You ate what was around, period. In terms of actual adaptation, yeah. So, rather, as the evolutionary perspective. The other perspective is you're eating local, meaning you're doing two things. One, you're improving your health, and two, you're improving the environment. You don't have to the food didn't have to travel super, super far. And yeah, like, it's going to be food that is adapted to where you're at right now. So if you live here in New York, right, we have winter. So there's not much vegetation around during the winter. As such, this is the time for people that are able to adapt to a ketogenic phase. This would have been the time, well, we're actually technically in spring as of today, but up until today would have been a good time to continue on a relatively ketogenic phase. Now that it's springtime, now would be a good time to start introducing berries and other springtime foods. Next up from there is summertime. That's when you can start to incorporate a little bit more on the melon and other starchier vegetables. Come the fall, you can start to introduce pumpkins and squash and turnips and those starchier stuff. And yeah, so eating with the seasons, great idea. Hey Kim, what's up? How you doing? And yeah, to answer Annie's question, eating with the seasons, great idea. Paul Pitchford, healing with whole foods. Tell me more about that. Well, what about that? Was he advocating for seasonal eating, I'm assuming? If so, yeah, I like it. I don't know what else he advocates for, but if he advocates for the seasonal eating, he's got that on point. I definitely agree with that, 150%. And Kim, who's on right now, if she didn't run away yet, if she didn't run for the hills, she can vouch for the fact that I have, on many occasions, eaten with the seasons, and just for the sake of argument and trying it out to see how it would work, I did one winter go through a zero-carb phase, where I was essentially taking in, with the exception of a little bit of ancillary from heavy cream and avocado and whatnot, I ate no carbohydrate at all. And even the avocado was minimal. So, yeah, I kept it super, super high fat with minimal proteins. I was keeping like 70-30. I'm still here, and he definitely has. Thanks for the cosign, Kim. Asian nutrition and Asian traditions and modern nutrition. My nutrition Bible. I like it. So, oh, that's super awesome. If you could pull the link for that on Amazon, post it into your comment, like reply to your comment with that, I would greatly appreciate that. I mean, I could just Google that too, but if you could pull that for me, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll probably jump right on that because I'm very much on on Asian, particularly traditional Chinese medicine, even Ayurveda, which is Indian, so it's Asian, but different animal, but close. On even like as weird as it is, I grew up, those of you who know me, on Japanese jiu-jitsu, more popularly known as ninjutsu, and part of that whole concept was they were Renaissance men. They not only were warriors, but they were medicine men as well, and there's a lot of herbal traditions in the Japanese culture, in the ninjutsu world, and that was kind of something I looked into a little bit. So yeah, I'm definitely down with pretty much all traditional herbs and natural medicines, but Asian culture in particular, good stuff. So yeah, would definitely be interested in looking into that. Side note on that, going back to ancestral approach, it's part of the reason why thank you, I appreciate it, Annie, love you. So it's part of the reason why different populations tolerate different foods better. So lactase persistence, the ability to digest lactose after weaning from your mother, is a predominantly Northern European trait. 75% of those of African descent, 90% of those of Asian descent lose lactase persistence and become lactose intolerant, which is the norm. That's the way we generally, we evolved for hundreds of thousands of years before that. So that's the norm. Northern Europeans have had more exposure to it, going back to the whole grain idea, going back to the breads, going back to that perspective. They've had longer exposure and have had better adaptation to dairy consumption. They have better adaptation to lactose. Whereas on the converse, things like soy and things like rice Asian populations have had a longer time and have had a better time, have had a longer time of exposure and more evolutionary pressure to adapt to rice and soy consumption, and they are better adapted to it. It's part of the reason why Japanese, Okinawans, Chinese, pretty much any Asian population can have a relatively healthy life on super, high, even though portions are smaller, not American-sized portions, but high rice and or soy consumption, and most Americans can't do well with that. Most, European or African Americans don't do as well on it and see higher rates of insulin resistance on that because of the evolutionary pressure. So it's one of those things where it's interesting looking at where your ancestry comes from and how foods adapt. And that's like where things like 23andMe and genetic testing can help out a little bit. Genes don't determine your life, but they do help demonstrate your blueprint. And hey, Nick, what's up, brother? How you doing? So yeah, so they aren't the answer. They're the blueprint. What you do after that, whether it be your the environmental exposures, whether it be your gut bacteria, your stress load, how much sun you get, how much movement you get. There's so many things that can change everything. Your genes just lay out how it's going to go. But that being said, it's interesting to see how different populations, because of what your ancestors ate, can actually change how well you can tolerate certain foods. So, yeah, going back to the grain thing as we started this whole thing before that. We as a culture today, do we tolerate grains better than our ancestors did? Yeah, because the ones that did really terrible on them, they didn't get to have kids. They generally passed away before that happened. If you were destroyed by grains, yeah, you're out. The ballgame was over for you. When civilization started and we moved towards domesticated culture, yeah, we do a lot better today than we did then. But has there been sufficient time and evolutionary pressure for complete adaptation to seed consumption? And the answer is probably not. Do we know for sure? No. But in the meantime, while the science is coming out, I'd much rather avoid it. Is bread delicious? Yeah. Is pizza delicious? Yeah. Are bagels delicious? Yeah. Is this on island? Yes. Does that mean that we should be doing it? Unfortunately, probably not. And that's really what it comes down to. So, we heart nutrition, science, life, knowledge, and Mike the Caveman. Much love, Annie. I love it. Jody, how you doing? So, yeah, we covered a whole bunch of different things. I'm possibly getting a new book to buy, Healing Whole Food Traditions and Nutrition. So I like the concept there. We'll see what's going on there. Apparently, I'm the modern guru with that one there. Talked about a whole bunch of things about bread, ancestral exposures, and what that actually means. Butter and eggs. How much sodium you should actually be getting in, particularly on a low-ish carb diet. Six Sparrow Podcast. Go check it out on Thursday. Spent 2 interesting, fun hours with them. If you didn't catch that last time, make sure you go back and check out episode 41 of the Six Sparrow Podcast. I know Murray can vouch that was a very interesting time. Fermentation. What about it? I like it. It's good stuff, Jody. Which kind of fermentation? Probiotics? Like fermented foods, alcohol, all of it's good. But, yeah, guys, we are at 33 minutes. I was ready to call it at 25 minutes, and you guys jump on late. So, any last questions? Otherwise, while I'm waiting for you to put those in, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend a little bit of your evening with me. Hopefully, these questions help you out, or the answers to the questions help you out. And, head on over to youtube.com/Mike the Caveman, where I put out videos every single day, questions coming from you guys, and, just gonna keep it rolling. Hopefully, we can change the world one question at a time. And, Instagram, Twitter, same thing, Mike the Caveman, put out some little bit inspirational stuff every day on those two. You know the deal. Subscribe over there, that way you make sure you don't miss anything. Send your questions in, and if you want, brain farting right now. Jiu-jitsu was a little tougher today. Kim can vouch for that one. What do you call it? That being said, just make sure you subscribe over there. Send me your questions. Keep them rolling. And if you watch this on the replay, thanks for making it this far. Otherwise, love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. And if I can ever hit the finish button.